Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Today is Monday, October 3rd, and we're certainly pleased to have all of you here today. I'd like to start tonight's meeting with a roll call of the City Council.
Council members Erpenbach? Here. Jameson?
Here.
Karski?
Here.
Rolfing? Aguilar?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Entenmann?
Here.
We do have 7 City Council members here tonight. That is enough to conduct our city's business. That's great. We do begin each City Council meeting with an invocation. We're very, very blessed to have Reverend Randy Rasmussen from the Emmanuel Baptist Church here in Sioux Falls. He will lead us in the invocation. We'd ask you to stand. And then after the Reverend is done, if you could stay standing, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend.
Please join with me in prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, we pause before this meeting tonight just to give you thanks and to ask your blessing. We give you thanks for the blessings you've given to this community. We're thankful for your goodness that you have obviously weaved into the fabric of this community. We're thankful for the fellowship of family and friends and neighbors. We're thankful for the resources of jobs and economic opportunities. We're thankful for those who help provide for order and well-being in our community, and for those who so readily respond to crisis. We're thankful for those who teach our children, for those who care for our elderly, for those who help to heal our sick, and for those who show mercy to the needy. We are thankful for the strength of our backs and the soundness of our brains. We are thankful for freedom and responsibility. And so we ask for your blessing upon those who have responsibilities in our city's government. Bless the mayor, bless the council, and the staff as they fulfill their responsibilities to the citizens of this community. By your light, O Lord, enable them to know what is best for this community. And by your love, O Lord, strengthen them to do what is best for this community. It is in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. We do have 2 proclamations tonight. The first one is Mental Illness Awareness Week. And here tonight, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
My name is Susan Clift. I'm the president of NAMI Sioux Falls, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas serious mental illnesses such as major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, severe anxiety disorders, borderline personality disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorders affect 1 in every 4 people annually. Whereas serious mental illnesses are more common than cancer, diabetes, and heart disease, and are the #1 reason for hospital admissions nationwide. Whereas serious mental illnesses have been scientifically proven to be highly treatable illnesses of the brain. Whereas scientific research is producing tremendous breakthroughs in the understanding of mental illnesses, resulting in more effective treatments that allow people to reclaim full and productive lives. Whereas misunderstandings exist about the many mental illnesses, and our social culture often wrongly imposes stigma on them. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim October 2nd through October 8th, 2011 as Mental Illness Awareness Week in Sioux Falls to increase public awareness of mental illness. Thank you. The next is with Domestic Violence Awareness Month here in Sioux Falls, and here today is
Amy Carter with the Family Violence Council.
the proclamation reads, whereas 4 million women are victims of severe assault by their intimate partners annually in the United States, and nearly 1 in 4 women are likely to be abused by a partner in her lifetime. Whereas in 2010, 1,390 domestic assault and protection order violation cases were investigated by the Sioux Falls Police Department and the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. Whereas in the year 2010, Children's Inn sheltered 1,172 abused women and children and responded to 3,898 crisis situations. The Compass Center provided 2,220 intervention services to 883 victims of domestic violence and counseled 196 offenders of domestic violence on how to stop abusive behavior. Whereas in the year 2010, the court system in Minnehaha County received 1,332 petitions for stalking and domestic violence protection orders. Whereas in 2009, 44% of the murders in South Dakota were a result of domestic violence. Whereas a dedicated group of citizens have been fighting domestic violence together through the Minnehaha County Family Violence Council for over 29 years. Whereas wearing a purple ribbon during the month of October and attending the Take Back the Night rally on October 20th, 2011 at the Education Center on the ground floor of the Orthopedic Institute on the Avera McKinnon campus at 6 p.m. will represent support for the victims of domestic violence. Whereas the voices of victims offer us important insight into the personal pain and loss that victims endure and are voices that deserve our attention, respect, and support. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2011 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Sioux Falls and urge all citizens to become actively involved to work towards improving victim safety and holding perpetrators of domestic violence and domestic abuse accountable for their actions against individual victims and our society as a whole. Thank you, Amy. Thank you all again for being here. We're going to continue with tonight's meeting with tonight's consent agenda. Council, any changes or motions to the consent agenda?
Move approval, Aguilar.
Second, Jamison.
Council Aguilar has made that motion to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Jamison. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Karski, Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Thank you. Now moving on to tonight's regular agenda. Council, any comments?
Move approval, Erpenbach. Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Erbenbach's made a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Vernon Brown. Any changes or motions? Councilor Erbenbach.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to amend the main motion and the regular agenda by withdrawing item 12.
Second, Karski.
It's been a motion to withdraw item number 12 by Councilor Erbenbach, seconded by Councilor Karski. Any comments on that? If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Council, yes, Councilor Erbenbach.
Then, Mr. Mayor, I would move to amend the main motion and the regular agenda by moving items 24 and 25 to be heard before item 13.
Second, Karski.
There's been a motion by Councilor Aguilar, or Councilor Erbenbach, to move regular agenda items 24 and 25, move them up ahead of 13. That was seconded by Councilor Karski. Any comments? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Intiman.
Yes.
That has also passed 7-0. Any other changes? We now have an amended regular agenda that we would like to vote on. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman.
Yes.
And that has passed 7-0. Thank you. Folks, we always have an opportunity for you to engage the council. It is your city. It's your city government. We want you to have an opportunity to talk to them. There are a number of items to cover tonight. If you've got a topic that is beyond or outside of the regular agenda, please just come forward and introduce yourself. And if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes, we would appreciate it. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the council? Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I've never presented something like I'm going to present tonight, but I think it has.
Would you just introduce yourself to the people of Sioux Falls?
I thought I did.
No.
I'm I.L. Weiderman.
Thank you.
From Sioux Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Weiderman.
I've never presented something like I'm going to do tonight. I've never felt I had to. The police were made aware of this fact. I got a private call Saturday night, and I answered the phone. It said private. It said, Mr. Weiderman, you had better leave Michelle Erpenbach out of these comments and forget about the event center or something will happen to you. I take this very seriously because there was on the internet, there was an answer to something that I had posted. It said, Mr. W., if you do not like Sioux Falls, maybe you should move. Maybe you should move. Go to another unproductive city that doesn't like change to move forward or to be the best it can be. People like you accomplish nothing but anxiety. You do nothing to make your comments, you do nothing to make your community a better place to live. Now, I did take that very seriously, and I apologize, Michelle. I thought I talked to you earlier. But there's another thing that you, Mayor, have told me personally that on the internet you could find the amortization of the event center. You can't hardly do it. I spent hours on doing it. I spoke to the Mr. Bixler, and he gave me a site. I talked to another lady that did have a site, but it took me quite a while to find it, and it did not have $115 million figures. It had for $110 million, and it had for $125 million. That was the first time I came across 125. Mr. Bickler said he was going to try and find the right figures. But this is errors that have been put out that those figures are there, and they're not. Then another thing is, when you and other people make these presentations to the city or to whoever these different organizations that you present them to, aren't you supposed to be presenting both sides, the pros and the cons? I think you'll find in the state constitution it says you do. Thank you.
You bet, Mr. Weiderman. Thank you. Mr. Weiderman, if you ever at any point feel that your life's in danger, your family's life's in danger, for anybody in Sioux Falls, don't ever hesitate to call 911 or anyone in Sioux Falls City Police, and they will follow up and try to help you as best they can.
I have an incident number and everything.
Thank you
on
very
it.
much. Thank you. You bet. And be safe. Anybody else like to speak to the council? Mr. Stengel, welcome.
Tim Stanga. Haven't been threatened yet. Sat down with a couple gentlemen today and very disappointed. It's more or less on the same aspect as what he has brought up. They look at, for what is being put into this event center, they more or less put it that desperate people go to desperate measures to getting something passed. First, we said that we're going to come in front of the city council and present all the findings and facts on the event center. Then that didn't go far enough, so then we went to the theater, and we had several meetings there. Found out that really what really wasn't bringing in as many people as they thought they would, and plus it was all the same people that came and showed up. So then we came up with a little slideshow to show people that this is what it's going to, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we're going to do this and that and everything else. But these guys said every project has cons. Every project costs money. These people want to know the truth. They want to know what it's going to cost flat out. They want to know how much it's going to be subsidized from the taxpayers. Deb Owens came out, and if the Argus Leader was right, it's going to come out as $10 million after the 6th or 5th or 6th year. A lot of people are looking at this and stating $10 million, plus you got to pay for the running of the building, plus you got to pay for the arena, plus you got to pay for the convention center. Now that $10 million has really went out there. Then we come out and we start talking about the railroad, moving the relocation of the railroad. People better open up their eyes, because I think this railroad deal is going to cost a little bit more money than we got set aside. And if we're going to try moving the railroad and building this event center and our roads in this town, we got to think twice. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Stinghead. Folks, anybody else like to speak? Well, very good. We'll move on to item number... Item 8. Oh, I'm sorry, item 8. Yes, thank you.
New 2011-12 packaged malt beverage farm winery license for Casey's Retail Company, Casey's General Store, number 3019, to be operated at 1901 East 10th Street, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. 9, 2011-12 packaged malt beverage farm winery license for Casey's Retail Company, Casey's General Store, number 3049, to be operated at 3236 South Sycamore Avenue, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Special, number 10, special one-day liquor license for the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra to be operated at the Avira Prairie Center, 1000 East 23rd Street, for the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra Gala on November 5, 2011. 11, amend special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses approved on 9/19/11 for Avira McKinnon Foundation to be operated at the Avira Prairie Center, 1000 East 23rd, for the Paint the Night Pink fundraiser on October 21st, 2011, amending this request to be for the Pink Fashionista event on October 1, 2011.
Lori, welcome.
Thank you. Lori Hogsted with the City Attorney's Office, here for items 8 through 11. As Jamie stated, 8 and 9 are for new licenses. Item 10 for a special one day, and then item 11 is an amendment. I can answer questions on any of these items that you may have.
Council, any questions or comments? Any
Move
motions?
to approve. Brown.
Councilor Brown, thank you.
Second Anderson.
Councilor Brown's made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. If there's no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 24.
Deferred action from the meeting of September 19, 2011, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into professional, architectural, and engineering design services agreement between the city and St. Combs Detholtz PC for the proposed Sioux Falls Event Center, along with other documents, amendments, change orders, or other instruments as may be deemed necessary and appropriate, consistent with the terms of the agreement.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight we have a big night in front of you, and we would like to first set up the team that negotiated the contracts for both item 24 and 25. The assembled team includes Director David Feifley, Tracy Cherbach, Karen Leonard, attorney, Assistant City Engineer Shannon Verhey, Jim Wiederick, attorney with Woods, Fuller, Schultz, and Smith, and Dick Strasberg with Tegra. Jim and Dick are our outside counsel that we sourced to have expert knowledge on writing these contracts, and just have a brief background to take you through before Jim starts with the presentation. Jim Wiederick has been an attorney at Woods, Fuller, Smith & Schultz in Sioux Falls since 1980. Areas of practice include business, corporate and tax practice areas for medical groups, banks, manufacturing companies, personal services companies, retail companies, and ag processing companies. He's negotiated and closed many acquisitions, sales, mergers, and incorporations. Mr. Wiederick's education includes the following degrees: Bachelor of Science in Accounting with the University of South Dakota, an MBA with the University of South Dakota, and a JD with the University of South Dakota. Jim tonight will start the presentation to take you through the facts, and then Dick will speak to the reason to move forward with these contracts tonight. Background on Dick Strasberg: he's a partner with Tegra Group. He's been critical as well in coming in not only on the selection of the consultants, in advising us on the business terms. And so a brief background about Dick. Dick Strasberg is a South Dakota native, was born in Brookings, South Dakota. He graduated from high school in Clear Lake. Dick holds a Bachelor of Architecture degree from North Dakota State University in Fargo. Dick gained large project experience while working for a national developer in both Colorado and Los Angeles. He then worked in New York for 3 years as an owner's rep in some of the largest contractors in the country. He started Tegra Group in 1996 with another partner. Since that time, Mr. Strasberg has worked on various large projects, including a $125 million Walker Arts Center, a $380 million project for the Children's Hospital, and a $550 million Target Center, and he was the executive project manager, owner's rep on that project. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you first Jim and Schultz. Jim?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the audience. The resolutions that are before you tonight are the accumulation of many months of work by the folks that Mark has introduced tonight. It's a pleasure to be here, and we are hopeful that we can bring the contract negotiation for these two contracts to a conclusion. The architect's contract has been negotiated, and as a refresher, there are 3 phases to that process with the architect, St. Combs Detlefs. The first phase was identification of the site. The second phase was primarily the schematic design phase, which is then used by the construction manager at risk to develop the initial guaranteed maximum price. So that work has been ongoing over the last 6, 7, 8 months, maybe even longer. And at this point, we are now ready to take a look at the contract, which will bring those 2 phases under the auspices of this contract and to completion of Phase 3. The Phase 3 services for St. Combs include design development services, the construction documents services, bidding services, and then construction services during the period of time that the event center would be built. As a quick run through the exhibits, we have the parties tonight, which when you think about the event center, there really are just 2 primary contracts that the city will be entering into. One is with the architect, the other is with the construction manager at risk. There may be some peripheral contracts for soil testing and things like that, but these are by far the 2 most important contracts in the event that the event center is approved in the ballot measure that is going to go to the public in November. The architect's contract, construction manager at risk then, are the 2 that we have before us tonight. Let me talk about the initial guaranteed maximum price. Based upon the schematic design documents and the funds that the city supported in the effort to complete Phase 1 and Phase 2 with the architect services, the architect was able to develop those schematic designs, which is an abbreviated form of what eventually will be the full set of schematic, part of the design development phase. And based upon that information, then Mortensen Construction put together an initial guaranteed maximum price. There are a number of elements to it. You have the construction, which is at $85,043,407. Then you have what could be considered alternates, including parking development, event center utilities, and project escalation, which is an inflation factor, and project alternates. The total then estimated by Mortensen Construction at this point is $97,261,121, realizing that there are other portions then of the total budget that the city has that are part of the proposed ballot measure of $115 million. Remember, those other costs are things what we would consider to be soft costs, such as the architect's fees and parts of the event center project that might go out beyond the initial building itself. So for the Phase 3 services, you have what are called basic services and additional services. The benefit of using Tegra has been that on behalf of the city, we've been able to move as many possible services that we think the city will need in the event center project from the additional services where you pay extra for it into basic services. And as a result of that, then you have the basic services divided into 4 categories. During design development services, they are paid 30% of their compensation. Construction document services, 40% of their compensation. Bidding services, 5%, and construction administration, 25%. The total compensation to be paid to the architect is 6.2% of the cost of the work. The cost of the work is part of the final guaranteed maximum price, which is something that will be determined after the public vote in the event that the vote is positive to go forward. Remember then that the city has the ability to control what happens after the public vote, even if it is a positive vote. The city gets in the contract the ability to decide whether or not to proceed with construction based upon what we call in the contract the Phase 3 conditions. There are 4 conditions before the city is bound to go forward and spend more money with the architect, and you'll see the same Phase 3 conditions in Mortensen's contract. First of all, there has to be a public vote in support of construction of the event center, which vote may take place as early as November 2011. When this information was put into the contract, we didn't know exactly when the public vote was going to occur, so we had the backup as late as April 2012, which is no longer the case. Item number 2, the securing of all funds necessary to pay the cost of the project, including but not limited to the authorization and the sale of the bonds, so that indeed the city has to decide that it does have the funding in place and it is able then to proceed with Phase 3 beyond the public vote. The city's decision and its sole discretion to proceed with Phase 3 of the project. And finally, the issuance to the architect by the city of a notice to proceed with the scope of the work for Phase 3. The important thing to note about the notice to proceed is that the city has the flexibility of deciding what parts of the project to go forward with while it is indeed putting in place perhaps the sale of the bonds or whatever. So you can do multiple and limited notices to proceed as long as the city has made that decision and is able then to provide the appropriation and funds necessary to cover those parts of the contract that it is willing to go forward with. It is anticipated that a full notice to proceed would not occur until at least January, which is of 2012, which is when we would hope that the bonds could be issued in the event that there is a positive public vote. So at this stature, the city is not obligated to go any further with the project until they have the public vote. You are not at risk of being obligated contractually to pay the architect in the event that the public vote is not there to support the event center. The architect's contract has been substantially negotiated by way of the business terms by Dick Strasberg and his partner up in Minneapolis as part of the Tegra Group. They have been a good partner to work with, and I think that they, along with the city attorney's office, city finance office, your insurance folks, have done a great job of pulling all the elements of these contracts together. At this point, I'd like to introduce Dick Strasberg to tell a little bit about why we are recommending at this point that the contract for the architect and the construction manager at risk be signed in advance of the vote, and to talk a little bit about the negotiation process, and then I'll be available for questions.
Thanks, Mr. Weidrich. Thank you. Mr. Strasberg, welcome.
Good evening. First, it's good to be back home. Growing up in South Dakota, I have great memories from it, and while I've worked kind of coast to coast, South Dakota is still home to me, so it's good to be back here. Thought I'd just maybe highlight just a few things in terms of the process that we use to negotiate this contract. First of all, we believe the contract negotiation starts when you send out the RFP. So you had a very well-written RFP. It set the stage for many of the business terms that we now have in this contract for both the architect and the CM, the construction manager. So the process starts with that, and we had very competitive pricing, very competitive provisions in the contract. It's a good time to be negotiating contracts like this, and so I think we've got an aggressive sort of platform on the business terms. Then as we move into the contract negotiations, much of this is working through what the market will bear. And once we selected the architect and selected the CM, subject to the contract review, then we lose a little bit of the leverage. But at the end of the day, we still have the leverage up until the vote. So my recommendation to the city has been bring the contract to the contracts, both contracts, to the council and have a very clear out, as Jim outlined, but bring it before the vote. We've negotiated the business terms on this and believe that the right way to do this is when we've got the leverage on this side of the vote. Once there's a vote, the public is, if they've made a decision to move forward with this, we lose a lot of the leverage. So that's kind of the strategy on putting the contract together. So I think probably I can just open it up for questions and be available as needed.
Mr. Strasberg, thank you, and Mr. Weidrich, thank you. Before we have the council engage you both, I would like to provide an opportunity to anyone in the audience to come forward and speak to this particular item. Is anybody interested? Very good. Ms. Strasberg and Mr. Weidrich, would you mind approaching the podium, please? Thank you. Council, questions for either one of these gentlemen? And I should be clear to the people of Sioux Falls, there have been a number of meetings already with the council and these gentlemen prior to this meeting, so I want to make sure that you're aware of that. But council, are there any additional ones for tonight? Yes, Councilor Jameson.
Help the public understand why this doesn't just go to a public open bid process after the vote, if it should be approved by the voters. Just re-explain it again if you did, but simplify it and why it doesn't go to a public bid process.
Well, under state law, you have two options. One is to go to the lowest bid, and the other is to do the proposal approach. And the City Council, probably as early as a year ago, decided that the proposal approach would be used. So what you do is you design criteria for selecting an architect, and you design criteria for selecting the construction manager at risk. You then interview a number of people that submit proposals, and you try and determine who fits the best by way of experience, price, and there were a whole list of criteria, and I believe that they were weighted criteria. And I think Mr. Strasburg can address that a little better than I can, because I was not part of the select process.
In my experience, these projects, the larger they get, the more complex they are, and working through the process of getting contractor input during the process is absolutely critical. So the way that most of these projects are done is to hire a construction manager, and again, they're the management. They aren't the builder, they're the management. And that's essentially what this contract is. It puts it in place for there to be a construction manager, and then the sub-trades are bid on a competitive basis. So it's really the management team that's being put in place now, and the input that they have is just absolutely invaluable during these processes, because it's a little bit of a tug of war between the architect and the contractor. When the architect wants something, we need to know what it's going to cost before it gets put into the project. So the contractor is on board to provide those type of services.
Thank you. Jameson? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Council, any other questions? Yes, Councilor Entenmann.
I'd just like you to reinforce, Mr. Ritterich, if you would, again, the fact that we enter into these contracts, nothing takes place till after the vote, and it is the council that makes a decision, even following the vote, correct? If it is a positive.
Ms. Ritterich.
Thank you.
Well, very good. Council, would anybody like to make a motion on item number 24?
Move we approve. Entenmann.
Councilor Entenmann's made a motion to approve item number 24, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Is there any further discussion? Very full vote, please.
Councilman Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. With item 25, I think that was, are there any further discussions on item 25? Mr. Wiedrich and Mr. Strasburg or Mr. Cotter?
We have to read that.
Hold on, let's read it first. Sorry. Thank you, Jamie. Sorry, folks.
Deferred action from the meeting of September 19, 2011, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a construction manager at risk agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and M.A. Mortensen Company for construction manager at risk services for the proposed Sioux Falls Event Center, along with other documents, amendments, change orders, or other instruments as may be deemed necessary and appropriate, consistent with the terms of the agreement.
Jamie, thank you very much. And Mr. Wiedrich, maybe just for the sake of the people of Sioux Falls, the biggest difference between item 24 and 25 is what?
Item 25 then would be the construction manager at risk contract, and it is a contract that includes the guaranteed maximum price information, which you saw in the earlier slide in connection with the architect's contract. The important thing with the construction manager at risk contract is to understand that once and if you have a positive vote and the city decides to give the architect the notice to proceed with the design development phase, the architect will provide a much more detailed set of design plans, and then those plans go to the construction manager at risk. The construction manager at risk will then come back with a proposed final guaranteed maximum price. The final guaranteed maximum price then is something that the city negotiates, and once it is accepted, then that becomes the maximum that Mortensen Construction can be paid with respect to the construction of the event center. Two things in that regard. First of all, if it goes over the final maximum guaranteed price, it is Mortensen's dollar that pays for it. If it goes under the final guaranteed maximum price, once you go and you bid out all those sub-trades that Mr. Strasburg was talking about, the city retains the difference. So you have none of the upside, all of the downside, and I don't think that you can get a contract that is in a better position as an owner than the one that is presented to the city tonight. Just To reiterate what Mortenson's fee will be, if you turn to the contract phases, Phase 3 for Mortenson is the development of the final guaranteed maximum price and then the construction of the event center. Once that final guaranteed maximum price comes in, it will have two components: the cost of the work, and it will have the 2.25% fee to be paid to Mortenson. At that point, that 2.25% becomes fixed for that fee, and there is no more to be paid to Mortenson unless we request, on behalf of the city, any additional construction services or a change order has been negotiated and accepted by the city. Questions?
Mr. Weidrich, thank you. Mr. Strasburg, any final comments? Final is a big word, sorry.
I think just to sum it up, I think it's, taking an orderly process in this is the right thing to do. Taking the time that we had to make the selection and to have a well thought out process of negotiating the contract, and now doing this well before the vote. It's an organized, well thought out process, and I think you're on the right track. And if the vote goes forward, you're positioned well to move forward with the project.
Mr. Strasburg, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to item number 25 before the council has an opportunity? Very good. Council, any? Yes, Erpenbach.
Question for you, Mr. Weidrich. I just have to bring this down to my level now. I appreciate all the work that you all have done, and these documents are very thorough, and we thank you for taking us to this level with that. My question then is, when it comes to that guaranteed maximum price, Mr. Strasburg said that those sub-trades will be bid on a competitive process, but the city won't be involved with that, correct?
Well, the city has to approve all of those subcontracts as part of the process.
Okay, so we do have more say in the step-by-step process.
Correct.
And then tell me about part of this contract and how it relates to local contractors. Are we looking at, do we have anything that kind of helps our local folks with this project, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. The discussions that we've had with Mortenson Construction is it would be their goal to use 85% of the final guaranteed maximum price and keep it with local contractors. And there are two ways in which they do that. One is that they design the bids in order to emphasize experience, quality, things of that nature. The Mortenson contract with the city allows two different processes, both of which can be approved by the city in any particular subtrade. One is the lowest bid, and the other is a proposal approach, similar to the process that the city went through to select the architect and the construction manager. With contract administration, I would invite Mr. Strasburg up to better explain.
I think coming off of the Target Field project, which was a project I'd say that's similar to yours with a lot of public dollars involved.
And Mr. Strasburg, Target Field is in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Target Field, Minneapolis, Minnesota, for the Twins ballpark.
Very good.
And I guess I'd say on that, after going through a project like that, it was very much building a building in a fishbowl. Everything is absolutely transparent, and that's the way it has to be when there's public dollars. So when the bids are taken, it's public. When anything that's approved, it's all transparent. And I think Jim has set this contract up well with sort of the approval of the various components in terms of the process that's needed to move forward with any given subcontract.
Councilor Karski.
I guess my question is regarding the construction manager at risk concept. I just want to move this a couple years down the road, assuming we have the public gives us a positive vote on this. 2 years from now, the economy's booming, things are great, construction is near completion, and we have some natural disaster that absolutely levels the entire facility. What risk is there for the city of Sioux Falls? I mean, construction costs are up 15%, materials are up 10 or 15%. How does that concept play into the construction manager at risk?
Maybe you could address it from a legal perspective.
That's where I'm headed, insurance. And the construction manager at risk contract is very specific about the builder's risk insurance that has to be maintained. And that, I've been involved in projects that burn to the ground immediately prior to their opening. And you have to have a very good set of insurance. And there are two parts to the insurance in this case. You have builder's risk insurance, but the city will also be covering, through its insurance facilities and folks, will be covering the cost of having to cancel events. So they will be working hand in hand as construction goes forward and as events are planned and booked, so that you cover those kinds of expenses on a going forward basis. And builder's risk insurance, if it's properly used, will cover inflationary costs, will cover cost of demolition, will cover cost of having to basically redesign certain portions or all of the event center or the facility.
And we have that type of a policy then that would cover all those things?
The policy will not be bound until there's a notice to proceed and the city decides to go forward. But the requirement is in the contract that Mortensen provide that insurance, and the city is an additional insured on that policy.
Councilor Garcia, very good. Councilor Jameson.
Councilor Karski, what's the name of your insurance agency? Sorry. Question on the guaranteed maximum price at the end here. You know, the vote goes and it's approved, and you enter into all these agreements. Further documents are created, and the guaranteed maximum price comes in at a number above the 115 that we've said we would spend on this project. Who has the authority, and how would we go about either allocating more funds to get to that higher number, or do we just cut and only get to the 115?
Maybe I could address that. I think it's fairly typical on every project like this that it gets designed more than what you can afford. On virtually every project it's that way. And the way we deal with it is we design in alternates. They're purposely designed in on saying, if the project's pricing, the bids come in high, this is how we get back to the number that we need to be at. And we design those in. We've already talked about many of those alternates, and it starts right at the beginning. So you take these projects and you know, they, at the end of the day, on this project, it's no different than any other one that we've been involved in. They have to come in on budget. We've never been involved in one yet that is over budget, and it's because we design in these alternates and, you know, carefully manage every decision.
But
yes,
just for consideration, who knows what can happen between now and then? Cost could skyrocket or something, but the idea it comes in at $200 million, and we have to cut it back all the way to nothing. Somehow, some way, either the council or the citizens should be able to allocate more funds to get a building that we really want. And I think we would have that authority, I would think.
I think you do have that authority, and it would be up to the city council then. What we have in November is an advisory vote, and if for some reason the council decided that an additional appropriation would need to be made, and the council decided that that was in the best interest of the city, then that's the decision, that's your prerogative.
Right, and we really wouldn't know that number until sometime after you know, all those final drawings are done, the bids are out. I mean, what time of year would that be? Like,
well, the final guaranteed maximum price will come before all the bids are out, and that's why it's the construction manager at risk. So once the design development phase is done, with the development documents having been prepared by the architect, and the construction manager comes back with that final guaranteed maximum price, If those bids come in later and the city has approved a final guaranteed maximum price and now it comes in over that, it's the construction manager who has to foot. And that, it could be 3, 4, 5 months after.
Okay, that's
after
what I
the
was-
public vote.
Thank you.
Councilor Jameson, thank you. Yes, Councilor Enderman.
It is, and people need to understand, though, to reach this $115 million, to reach the point where we are at with the contracts right now that you're proposing to us, that we are very confident that we're going to be at that $115 million price the way that we've got it established at this time.
I think we can say that given the amount of effort that's been put on, the estimating, just from almost the schematic concept drawings onto where the drawings are now, we're comfortable with that we've got it. It's been a very organized process, and it's been well thought out with many of the all the major components have been priced out multiple times, so we're comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Council, very good. Would anybody like to make a motion on item number 25?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second Aguilar.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve item number 25, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Are there any further questions or comments? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Thank you. This passed 7-0. Item number 13.
Deferred action from the meeting of September 6, 2011, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by amending the process for the approval of contracts.
Mayor, if I could.
Yes, please. Councilor Jameson.
This is an item that's been before the council for quite some time. It's an attempt to have better oversight by the council and to create better transparency to the public. After a review, it had gone to Fiscal Committee, and I would defer to Councilor Brown if he has any further comments, if he could start.
You bet. Councilor Brown, any further comments?
I would just supplement what Councilor Jameson had to say. It's been since November 2010 that we've been working on this. It's a simple checks and balances for city contracts and returns the council to what is written in the charter.
Very good. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this particular item, number 13? Sir, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'm Joe Kirby. I caused some of the problems that caused you people to be here. I'm one of the authors of the city charter. I'm here to speak on behalf of the mayor-council form of government adopted by voters in 1994. I'm not here on behalf of the mayor or the council or anyone else, nor any group, nor am I here to criticize the mayor or the council, because what I see before me is a bunch of earnest, well-meaning people who are serving the public good, which is exactly what we hoped for when we designed this form of government. But my impression is that we've gotten a bit off track in the 18 years since this form of government was put in place. It looks to me like the job of city council person has been expanded over time, so now it takes way too much time. Our original intent was to have the council job be very part-time, to take maybe 10 to 15 hours a week, and I don't think that's what you're spending on it right now. If the job becomes too burdensome, it limits the number of citizens who can afford to take time to serve. Our goal was to allow anyone, no matter what their normal job, to have the opportunity to serve on the city council, to participate in city government. And I worry that if the job becomes virtually full-time, very few people will have the opportunity to serve. So I would encourage you, and I don't have an answer on how you do this, but I would encourage you to undertake an effort to take a fresh look at what you do and to try and cut back the commitments that you need to make closer to what we had in mind when we designed this. Thank you.
Ms. Kirby, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to? Yes, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Monin, and I'm with Friesen Construction. I'm also here representing the Sioux Falls Contractors Association. And basically, I want to say that as contractors, as one contractor in town, we're not in favor of anything that slows down the contracting process. It can already take as long as 30 days for us to get a contract from the time a contract or a bid is let. We have a shortened construction season, as you all know. We have about 8 months to perform about 12 months worth of work in this area. And, you know, we're all trying to get the most that we can get done in those 8 months. So to delay it in any way does not help any of us. In addition, we've had some wet years. Last year in particular was very wet, and so every day on a construction project is important. So again, not a reason to delay. And finally, in this economy, frankly, a lot of us don't have a lot of work coming out of the chute in the spring, and so we want to put people to work. So those bids sometimes are not till, you know, March, April, and it's good weather. We want to put people to work, and so the sooner that we get those contracts, the better off. You know, in my opinion, there's already a lot of opportunities for public comment and council approval. The CIP process, I believe, goes before the council, and projects that are going to be let for that upcoming year, in fact, for 5 years, are on that CIP. The projects are all publicly advertised. They're in the paper, they're on the website, so there's a lot of public information and knowledge about what's coming to bid. The bids are publicly opened. Anybody can come to a bid letting and hear the numbers. The bid tabs are on the website, and again, anybody can go to the website and look at those bid tabs. And as I understand it, having checked on a contract that I want to get going, there's lots of steps internally. Public Works looks at the contracts, Finance looks at the contracts, City Attorney looks at the contract, and finally the Mayor looks at the contract. So, you know, we just feel that there are many reviews, public reviews, council reviews of these contracts that already go on, and to delay it needlessly doesn't help anybody and just costs us all more money. Thank you.
Cynthia, thank you. Anybody else? Very good. Council, yes, Councilor Brown?
I will move to approve. I do have a number of amendments, but I will move to approve what was on the first reading, just to get us started.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Brown's made a motion to approve item number 13, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Brown?
I do have additional amendments, but because of the numerous compromises prepared in a single document, I'll first move to amend by substituting the main motion with document 3.3 in Sire.
Second.
Councilor Brown has made a motion to amend item number 13, seconded by Councilor Jameson. Councilor Brown, would you want to explain that to people?
What this does, well, first of all, I want to address some of the questions that came up from the public, because sitting in this council seat, I think it improves efficiency, what we're talking about today, because it puts everything in one source. I would challenge any citizen to go out and try to figure out between the websites and finance department how to get to all of those contracts and documents and figure it out. This would simply put it on the consent agenda calendar, so all contracts would be approved with one vote on the consent calendar, as you saw us do earlier this evening. It would be anything that goes to $25,000 for services and goods and $50,000 for public improvement projects. David, if you'd pull up, I want to just show everyone what the charter says specifically, because that's been bantered about quite a bit. This is in section 2.11C. It says, all actions of the council shall be by a majority vote of those present, except no ordinance or any action calling for the expenditure of money in excess of the state bid limits for municipalities or filling of vacancies as set forth in section 2.06 shall be valid or binding unless adopted by the affirmative vote of 5 or more members of the council. So when the charter was written, it wasn't just about a simple majority of the people sitting up here. It specifically said 5 council members have to approve any expenditure in excess of state bid limits. This council has never done that. It has not lived up to the charter as written before you. And that's what this is about, living up to that, making it clear and concise, and also putting it in one source so everyone can see exactly what is going on. I would, if this is supported, I would also offer an amendment to change the language from the $25,000 and $50,000 limit to change it to state bid law. That way, the state does periodically change those bid limits, and that way future councils wouldn't have to change that every time the state does it. Other changes in this document, it changes shall to may regarding contracts viewed by Parks and Rec Board, and it clarifies that all change orders in excess of the state bid limit shall be noticed to council by placing those items on the consent agenda as well. The council is not required to approve the change orders by contracts.
So, Councilor Brown, just clarify for the people of Sioux Falls, your amendment incorporates all of the items that you discussed just. Yes. And Councilor Jameson, you're comfortable with that?
I'm not sure, Councilor Brown, does the change from the language to state bid limits need a second, or is that another motion that we need to make?
Yes, I would move to amend them by striking all references to section 34.5-1 to 25 50,000 and adding in their place state bid limit.
Councilor Jameson.
Yes, second.
Very good. We now have a proposed amendment that has been seconded. Councilor Urbanbach, did you have a
No, I
comment?
just wanted to clarify, because I think Councilor Brown is using sort of internal notes on the items as they're listed in SIRE. If you're looking at SIRE now on your computer at home, it is the fourth item. It is the fourth item attached to number 13 on our agenda tonight that he is making the amendment.
Councilor Urbanbach, thank you. Council, any more comments on this particular proposed amendment? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Intiman.
Yes.
Council, any further discussion? Any more motions?
Move to approve.
Councilor Jameson has made a motion to approve item.
We already have that.
Already have that.
That motion is already on the table, Mr. Mayor.
That was for the amendment. Now we are voting on the, are we voting on, Councilor Jameson, you want to vote on the item number 13?
Yes.
Very good. Councilor Jameson's made a motion to approve item number 13.
Second Anderson.
Seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Any further questions or comments? Councilor Karski.
I guess I'd like to comment on the need for this whole action in that the city council is to provide oversight on contracts, and we by charter are to appropriate the budget and also to approve of expenditures. And I know that there's been some history of projects that the council has voted to approve through the appropriations process that didn't get done, and other projects that have been completed without the consent or knowledge of the council. And this is the primary means, the tool that we have to make sure that the intent of the council through the appropriations process is taken care of. And I feel it's a good move.
There is a motion to approve item number 13 as amended. It was made by Councilor Jameson, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Hearing no further comments, roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Intiman.
No.
That is passed 6-1. Item number 14.
Deferred action from the meeting of September 6, 2011 and September 19, 2011. Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls rezoning property at South Grange Avenue and West Village Drive from the RA2 Residential District, the C4 Planned Commercial District, and the I1 Light Industrial District to the RA2 Residential District, the C4 Planned Commercial District, and the I1 Light Industrial District, petition number 2011-0706, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper with Planning and Building Services. This is a petition submitted by Dunham Companies. The property is located south of 41st Street and east of Grange Avenue. It consists of approximately 26 acres. This is a modification of a previous zoning land use plan that has been approved by the City Council, and we will also be considering this later on in item 22 as a revised preliminary subdivision plan. The applicant was originally proposing to modify the previous street layout as well as land uses, and he was looking for a variety of potential options, which included everything from multifamily residential to commercial and light industrial. We were looking at a variety of options as far as how this property would be developed when we initially started these discussions. Essentially, the industrial zoning would increase with this consideration tonight. The commercial zoning would decrease. The multifamily would essentially be about the same. There would be some additional zoning for drainage and detention as required by the project. We've recently received more information from the applicant about what the actual uses are anticipated to be on this property. And subject to your action tonight, we do have an action item scheduled for this Wednesday before the City Planning Commission, which would be a conditional use permit application for indoor recreation facilities. The applicant has provided a more detailed site plan for this particular property, which shows that along Grange Avenue, there would be a proposed building as well as 2 sports domes that would be utilized for indoor recreation as well as therapeutic uses, as well as to the east of this would be plans for significant area of multifamily residential. The Planning Commission did review the zoning plan, again, based on the surrounding uses, the compatibility. They did recommend approval of this modification. And I believe that Jim Dunham is hiding out somewhere if you have more questions as far as the detailed development plans. That concludes my information.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Very good. Council, any questions? Yes, Councilor Jameson.
Mike, do you know the color of these domes or what they might be?
We'll take a look at that Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
Yeah. I would imagine it would be similar to the other sports dome that's behind Shopko.
White.
Kind of a similar stealth.
All right.
Council, any other comments? Councilor Rittenbach.
Thank you. My question is, and you know that I struggle with this, when we start to make our zoning maps look like a quilt instead of, more cohesive, this isn't a planned development district. It is essentially 3 different types of zoning in one area. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the conventional zoning districts that, to be honest, the sports domes are not, it's one of those that's not specifically identified in our ordinance that we are now working on updating from the 1980s. So when you take a look at this type of use, it would fit into a personal service as a private recreation facility. So, yeah, the industrial zoning is one that we would hope to eventually come up with a better category for this type of use with our new zoning amendments.
Okay,
but
thank
for
you.
now, it's the best fit that we could come up with.
Okay.
And it does require a conditional use, so it does require another hearing process.
Good, thank you.
Council, would like to make a motion?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Brown.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Brown. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 15.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at East 73rd Street and South El Dorado Avenue from the Diamond Valley Plan Development District and the RS2 Residential District to the RD Residential District. Petition number 2011-0712, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is also a petition by Denham Companies, and did receive a request for a deferral to the October 17th City Council meeting.
Move to defer to October 17th.
Second, Erpenbach.
Has been a motion made by Councilor Brown to defer this item to a later date, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 16.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1208 West Elkhorn Street from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the O Office District, petition number 2011-0608, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition that's been submitted by Rena Cortez. This building is in the old industrial park, as we old-timers call this area, north of the airport, north of Elmwood Golf Course. This building has been in that area for quite some time. The most recent use has been an office. Offices are allowed in industrial zoning, but churches are not allowed in industrial zoning. So the petitioner is asking for this area to be changed to office so that a church use could go into this building. It's about just over 1/2 acre in size, and there is off-street parking that's available for this particular use. The proposed church is Ministerio Internacional, and again, the applicant believes that this is a proper location for the proposed use, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Council, any motions, comments?
Move to approve.
Thanks, Councilor Jameson.
Second, Brown.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. There is a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Brown. No further discussions. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 17.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 124 South Elmwood Avenue from the RD Residential District to the Elmwood Plan Development District, petition number 2011-0810, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Ron Weber. This also had to do with the item 12, which was withdrawn previous tonight. Mr. Weber is the owner of this property, which is an existing garage storage building. At the time that this originally was constructed, based on the permits that were issued, it was an accessory building to an adjacent residential structure. And within our zoning ordinance, when that happens, you are allowed to use a storage garage for personal storage. But when those two properties are split up into separate ownership, then the garage essentially becomes freestanding. It no longer is accessory to a main residential structure. And so Mr. Weber approached us about how we could rectify that situation. Initially, the request was to rezone the garage to industrial, which does allow personal storage, but we knew that wasn't going to work very well with the neighborhood. So after additional negotiations and discussions with staff and Mr. Weber, we came up with this plan development option, which is before you tonight. Essentially, it would achieve the same result, that it would be limited to personal storage of this existing garage building. This has also been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. There was some neighborhood input and involvement, and the neighborhood feels that as long as it continues to be personal storage and not in industrial type use, that they also felt comfortable with this request. And Mr. Weber is here tonight if you have any questions for him.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item? Council? Yes, Councilor Karski.
With the zoning like this, Mike, would outside storage be allowed? I mean, could you pave a certain portion of the property and have, boats or anything, campers, that type of thing stored on it?
Yeah, the way that we would We would deal with that like any other residential zoning district, that, you can have campers and RVs in your backyard, but it has to meet requirements. We would treat this the same way.
And if I might, this already has an existing building on the
Yes.
structure, so...
Yeah, covers most of the lot already.
And any storage would have to be behind that building if it was on a paved surface,
Yep.
Is that what you're telling me?
Right, but the primary intent is to allow the inside of the building to be also used for storage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Entman.
Mike, and the definition of personal storage in this case is for his own personal use, is that correct?
Yes.
So it's not
It's
leased
not
storage,
commercial,
storage.
industrial storage. It could include motorcycles, but you would have to own them. You could be, yeah. But yeah, that's the general intent of personal storage.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Jameson.
Mike, if, just like any of us in our personal homes, if we were storing property for another individual and charging them rent, no one would ever know. The only reason it would become something that the city would know about is if the neighbors maybe...
Neighborhood complaint.
Had a complaint
Yes.
come in.
Correct.
And I had a chance to drive by this house and take a look at the garage, and I appreciate all the work you guys have gone through to try to make this work for the landowner. And I'm glad that there's no neighbors here who are concerned about what Mr. Weber might do. But I just want to be clear on how that process would be handled if there was a complaint.
That's correct, yes.
Councilor Lane, would you like to make a motion?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Entman.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve, second by Councilor Entman. If there's no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That's passed 7-0. Item 18.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapter 18, Garbage and Recycling of the revised ordinances of the City of Sioux Falls.
Mayor and Council, good evening. I am Bob Capel with the Public Works Environmental Division. Our team is here this evening to assist the Landfill Division and the Solid Waste Planning Board to pursue your support in the proposed changes to Chapter 18 of the Garbage and Recycling Ordinance of Sioux Falls. Previously, we gave presentations to the City Council Public Service Committee. We gave presentations at the City Council Informational, and we've given a presentation at the first reading by the City Council. Fortunately, we will not be repeating that presentation tonight. Instead, I shall rather give a brief background and reasons why our team believes that these proposed ordinances should be considered for adoption by the City Council. First, some background information for the public. The solid waste collection system in our region is generally owned and operated by the private sector, with licenses through the City of Sioux Falls. Currently, there's no cap on the number of licenses that we can have in our region. Recently, we have licensed between 30 and 40 garbage haulers to service this region. The solid waste treatment and disposal system is owned and operated by the City of Sioux Falls. Our major regional sanitary landfill serves the 5-county region with a service population of approximately 240,000 people. The counties served are Lake, Lincoln, McCook, Minnehaha, and Turner counties. The city is authorized to operate this landfill through solid waste permits issued by Minnehaha County and the state of South Dakota. The state of South Dakota has adopted laws to establish programs and regulations that reduce the waste stream disposed of in landfills in the state and thus protect the health, public health, safety, and welfare, protect the environment, and return resources back to the industry for reuse. State law also has required the City of Sioux Falls to develop and file a comprehensive solid waste reduction and recycling plan. This plan must be revised every 5 years and submitted to the state of South Dakota. I would first like to acknowledge the significant efforts that have been made over the past 2 decades to reduce and reuse and recycle solid waste in our region. The city and the region's effort to improve recycling cannot fully be achieved without an adequate local code and a strong partnership and commitment by our local solid waste and recycling industry. Our team and the Solid Waste Planning Board has determined that our current efforts can use some improvement. For example, our current draft solid waste recycling assessment indicates that Sioux Falls is at the low end of residential and commercial per capita recycling rates as compared to benchmark communities in this assessment. We also believe that some licensed garbage haulers have invested significant resources in their efforts to comply with our existing codes and are partnering with the city to improve recycling rates in our region. While we also believe, for some reasons like lack of commitment, investment, and educational efforts, some haulers have generated very poor recycling rates. We are concerned that the current code needs to be revised to ensure we have an enforceable standard to create a fair playing field for the solid waste industry. Failure to address this issue may have created an economic disadvantage to those haulers that have made a significant investment to comply with our existing code to improve solid waste reduction and recycling. Again, the main reasons that we are here today to propose these ordinance revisions are as follows: to bring our code up to date with existing industry practices, to improve our efforts in solid waste reduction and recycling, to create a fair playing field for the solid waste industry, and ultimately extend the life of the landfill while protecting the environment. One note I would like to make in reference to a comment that I made in the last previous presentation, we talked about the implementation of the enforcement strategy that we are proposing in front of you today. At that time, I relayed that our Solid Waste Planning Board and our administration and our staff were pursuing the implementation to start in 2011. Since that discussion and comments and questions by council, we have again met with our city attorney's office for the second time on the implementation schedule. Based upon that meeting from the city attorney's office, they have recommended that we use the most conservative approach in implementing this enforcement strategy. Based upon that, our team would like to support that recommendation, and therefore we will not begin the full implementation of these new standards and the enforcement strategy until the year of 2012. So in essence, based on that strategy, we were talking about a 3-year period before we would eventually revoke a license of a hauler that would fail to meet our recycling standard. That now would be extended until the year of 2015 before there would be potential revocation. And I want to clarify that correction that our team has dealt with the attorney's office recommendation. Again, our team is ready to address any concerns or questions that you may have on these ordinance provisions, and we are hopeful that we can have your support to move forward to bring our recycling and solid waste reduction efforts to the next level in our region. Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this item? Yes, welcome, sir. Welcome.
Hi, Council. I'm Bruce Rosenboom. I'm with Ace Garbage Service here in Sioux Falls. I really don't have any problem with the upgrade in the ordinance except for this section on pay-as-you-throw. I am a third-generation owner of Ace Garbage. My grandfather started it. My wife and I, and then 4 employees, run the service. And 2010, we were the #1 recycling company in Sioux Falls with 25%. This year, I understand we are tied in second place with 25%. And we do our best to do green. We're very much go green, but like was just stated, much resources were expended to get to that point. I have a full-time driver. I have a truck dedicated specifically for recycling, as well as I'm in a recycling truck 2 to 3 days a week. All this pertains to the prices that I charge for garbage. It costs more money, I have to charge a higher price. Well, I'm specifically addressing Section 59, I believe you call it, the pay-as-you-throw portion. And what that calls for me to do is to have a 25% differential between the different container sizes. We offer 3 different trash carts. We offer like what would be a 1 can, a 2 can, and a 3 can size for trash carts. And with those containers, I have to have a 25% differential between every price. Right now, I'm at about 15%, and people, they definitely take note when there is a difference of that 15% between the container sizes. They acknowledge that, and we do discuss it. However, my wife is one to say, we would rather have you have a little larger container and not have extra bags sitting beside your container, or have an extra garbage can that my guys have to drag to the street. We do take our trucks down the street. We don't go in driveways. All we have to do now is we take the cart, we wheel it to the street, we hook it on the truck, push a lever, the lever dumps the truck, no matter if you've got a toilet in there, apples, whatever. I've got a 55-year-old man working for me, and all he has to do is walk. He doesn't have to lift at all day long. As well as these carts have a significant footprint. The larger size carts, there's the 2 can size and the 3 can size. We were the first independent company to come to Sioux Falls with trash carts. And when I was reading through the brochures, one of the factors that the manufacturer stated is that this middle-sized container, the 2 can size, can withstand 57-mile-an-hour winds without tipping over if there's trash inside of them. Now, you don't get that if somebody has a little small container and they put an extra garbage can or a bag or something beside it. We had it on Thursday, a couple situations like that, where they set their extra Rubbermaid type garbage can beside the cart, the little cart, and it blew all over the guy's front yard, and there was trash all the way up the street. With the bigger carts, you very rarely see them blow over if there's trash inside. And now what's going to happen is everybody's going to want to step down a cart size. I'm going to have these little carts, and yet everybody cleans their garage. Sometimes on holidays there's an 8-day period between pickups, and you will see that there'll be an extra bag or somebody has extra garbage, and we'll have to drag it down to the street, and it'll be sitting in there for dogs to get into as well as anything else. That's my guys' excuse. Garbage industry is one of the top 10 most occupational hazard jobs and back injuries. And with this, I've gotten out of it. All I have had for workman's comp claim is I got one of my guys got stung with a wasp this summer and he had to sit out for 2 days. Otherwise, we've never had a back injury because of these carts. And now if we go to the smaller size, we will be dragging this extra stuff down. My biggest reason that I've got right now, I have no problem with the pay-as-you-throw, however, not at this time. And basically what that is I think that you guys have probably all seen a copy like this that has come to you. This is our report card of all the garbage haulers here in Sioux Falls. Basically, they're all listed here. You as a consul 5-6 years ago drew a line of what's acceptable, not acceptable, with a ratio of recycling to trash. You notice that line is right in the middle between all the haulers. I guarantee you these people on the top got a lot more invested in resources to get to that point. And I lost 3 customers today, and they were not to any one of these guys in the top. Now, if I have to go and raise all my customers by $2.50 all the way up to $4.50, they will be leaving. I am very nervous as it is right now because my prices, I've got to absorb the price of that recycler. There are so many people behind this red line right now that do not have this cost involved in their recycling programs that I could be losing my customers to. I can see in 2-3 years, I've been assured that through the carrot and stick approach that this red line will be going down lower, so more garbage haulers will be complying, and thereby they'll have additional cost, and then I can compete. But right now, a $2.50 increase to my customers, they will leave me. The phone will be hot from people leaving me, as well as my biggest container will be a $4 increase from this 15 that I was stated. So I just want to ask from my viewpoint, you would be doing us that have tried a legitimate effort to put out a decent program, just to hold off a little longer till everybody starts complaining and we all have an equal cost basis. So, thank you.
Ms. Rosenboom, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this item? Welcome. Welcome, sir.
Mayor, Council. My name is Chris Vandenek from Dakota Disposal. Sorry if this sounds a little choppy, but I took this in 5-letter pages and turned it into one. I think it's unfair to threaten haulers who don't make the recycling median with the loss of the licenses. The median is just that, the middle, which means there will be half of us above the line and half of us below the line. I will never be one of those companies that are above the line. I'm a single-man operation with a single truck. That truck is a big truck, not a little pickup, which means anything my customers want me to take, I take, which means furniture, anything, sheetrock, landscaping, construction material, cleanups, anything like that I take as long as it complies with the landfill's rules and regulations, no paint, no tires, things like that. Recently I had a customer replace all the windows in his house. That went in my truck. That's a lot of weight. It would be impossible for me to offset that kind of weight with recycling. I'm not trying to be the biggest company out there. What I do want is a comfortable living for my family and the time to help my community. I currently am a coach of 2 soccer teams and 2 basketball teams. I can help out with the local charities, local fundraisers. Revoking someone's license because they don't meet a number is not going to cause the people who recycle poorly to recycle any better. The reason we are at this juncture is because no one can agree with what a fair playing field is. Some haulers choose to recycle glass, which I do not. Glass can weigh a lot, which is a double whammy. Because I have to weigh it in my MSW, they get to weigh it in their recycling. So it's 2 times the difference there because they get it one way, I have to take it as a minus the other way. Some people say that it's our option. Well, it is. Some of us feel that we have to keep both recycling plants open so no one gets a monopoly here in town on it. I can assure you that anything my customers put out to be recycled is recycled. The landfill has load inspections to watch this. I believe that anyone that votes for this measure is acutely unaware of the differences between the businesses that we run here. Some people do roll-offs, some people don't. I take all the construction in one truck. And I would like, in closing, I would like to ask that you not approve of this ordinance as it does not improve recycling, which is what we're trying to get to. Instead of come up with some a true fair playing field.
Ms. Bender, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this item? Welcome. Folks, if there are other individuals who want to speak to this, if you could just be ready, we'd appreciate that. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Perry Shemp. My wife and I own Mars Sanitary Sioux Falls. Just to let you know, our company is recycling about 14%. We're right in the middle. We're above that proposed minimum standard. Thank you for the opportunity and letting me share my thoughts. I've emailed you all with a lot of my concerns earlier. I just want to point out a couple things. As I mentioned, the recycling goal number that we have, which is currently 15%, that number, I believe, is flawed. It's flawed because some haulers choose to not accept glass. Glass is voluntary. So if you're not taking glass, your numbers are going to be lower. It's flawed because some haulers could be bringing in recyclables from outside of the 5-county area to increase their numbers. There's nothing that can prevent this from happening. It's flawed because some haulers, like myself, could see their recycling rate drop by over 1% last year just because of rainwater that I had in my dumpsters that ended up going to the landfill. So if you pass Section 1862, subsection 1, the recycling goal will be at least 19%. I've been told that it's going to be 19% if that part passes. It'll be even higher than that if the business reporting is passed. Only 8 of 30 haulers meet this rate currently. 73% of them will fail that. 60% of them will fail the minimum standard, and they will be subject to the financial penalties and the possible loss of their businesses. Now, I'll be the first to admit some haulers could and should be doing a little bit better job in the recycling. But many of these 22 haulers are doing a great job. They're promoting their recycling to their clients, but it's actually the client's ultimate responsibility to recycle. Should someone lose their business over missing a minimum standard, which I believe is proven to be flawed? So I'm asking you to not approve 1862 subsection 1. Leave the formula that calculates the recycling rate as it is. That gives each hauler an equal say in it. I'm also asking you to not approve subsections B and C of 1875. These are the harshest penalties of the ordinance. Finally, in 2006, 5 years ago, this council was asked to approve a recycling goal to its ordinances. Some of you maybe were here that night. Some councilors were kind of worried. One councilor actually asked if haulers could actually lose their license if they didn't meet the goal. The interim public works director stated at that time that the city does not want to shut down any haulers. And I hold in my hand here a copy of the news release for that. But here you are tonight with step-by-step proposals to do that very thing. I think councilors from 2006 would be a little disappointed. So I ask you, is this really the proper role of government?
Mr. Shim, thank you very much. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tom Wilford. I represent Marv Sanitary Service of Brandon, South Dakota. No ties whatsoever other than friendship with Marv's Sioux Falls. My primary point is that garbage haulers can only submit for recycling the material that their customers put out for them. No more, no less. Well, I guess there is a concern that there may be haulers who are not bringing in for recycling the material that their customers are putting out for them, and that would be a real problem. That would be something that would have to be addressed with very strong measures. However, for those of us who are bringing all of the recyclable material that our customers put out and fully expect us to see that they get recycled, for those of us who are getting that material transferred to a recycling collection center, we're asking to not be penalized because of the actions of those who may not. All we can do is haul the recyclable material that our customers have. That's all we can do. We can't create any more recyclable material. So then the question is, who's responsible for the public and their desire, ability, their continuation of recycling efforts? I don't feel that it's 100% the hauler's responsibility. It seems to me that the point of a lot of these changes is to put the pressure on the haulers to cause their customers to recycle more. I'm not saying that that's 100% wrong. I can tell you that Marv's and Brandon, I'm the manager of Marv's and Brandon. I don't know if you have your material in front of you, but just for your information, our recycling percentage thus far in 2011 is 13.3%. Last year, our recycling percentage was 12 for the year. We're showing some improvement. I have been racking my brain ever since the discussions started on this a couple years ago. How do we convince people who are ambivalent, shall we say, to recycling to kind of get with the program and recycle more, become excited about it? Boy, I'm telling you, that's a challenge. We've recently started on every single bill that goes out, we put some message on there encouraging recycling, whether it's letting them know what we do, what we recycle. Some people it comes back to the personal responsibility of the customer. Some people still ask, do you recycle? It's been said recycling is easy. It's not that hard. It's nothing new. It's been going on for decades. When I was in school, and more than likely when all of you were in school, there was a class time spent on the need to recycle and the responsibility of us as citizens of the world and users of the natural resources that God has blessed us with to not be wasteful. And yet, we have people asking us if we recycle. Of course we recycle. We're a garbage hauling company. In fact, on the last little brochure that went out, or not brochure, but a little flyer in a mailing that the Optimist did as a fundraiser, I changed it. Instead of saying trash hauling, I reversed it and said recycling services and put it in green and so on, just trying to get people to think more along the lines of recycling and not of trash. But, and anecdotal things are a dime a dozen, but a person called today asking for a dumpster service. For 7 years they've been hauling their trash to their parents' dumpster in Iowa. And I went through, I said, yeah, we can do that. We can do the residential style with cans, or we can put a dumpster there. And I asked them about recycling. I said, because we offer a full range of recycling. We can recycle glass, paper, cardboard, chipboard, all went through the list. And the question then to me was, well, do I have to? Because I really am not interested in that. And, that's where the battle is. The battle, I don't believe, for the most part, I don't believe the battle's with the garbage haulers. The battle is convincing the public that there is something worthwhile in investing some time and energy into recycling. As a garbage hauling company, yes, we have a greater emphasis on it now. I personally have a greater emphasis on it now. Going through a lobby of a building, here was a big, clean wad of magazines and catalogs and stuff. I grabbed them out and I hauled them to the recycling bin. There is a commitment on the part of all the garbage haulers that I personally know to be responsible in recycling. However, when your customers, when you can't drag them along to where you're at in this interest, what are you supposed to do? You can't. It makes absolutely no business sense to tell your customers, go find somebody else if you're not going to recycle. I don't want you for a customer. That's just shouldn't even be brought up. So the question is, are we going to continue putting all the pressure on the hauler by penalizing them for the actions of their customers? It doesn't seem appropriate. Putting some pressure on the hauler to be sure that they're doing everything they can to be recycling. I guess I would say that I'm kind of testifying that works, but I can't say that I'm seeing a whole lot of results from it. Our recycling percentage is up. That may be your comment. However, we now have a truck dedicated strictly to wood waste. We haul virtually no wood waste with our MSW for this entire year. So we're taking away from our MSW weight to try to offset that heavy weight compared to our recycling. However, that you have to take away a tremendous tonnage of MSW simply to make the percentage of recycling come up. In the information that I emailed you, the example, you would, if you're hauling 200 tons of MSW a month and 20 tons of recycling, including grass clippings and whatever is counted as recycling. If you're hauling 20 tons, if you wanted to bring your percentage, if you had a percentage of 9%, you wanted to bring that up to 15%, you would have to, your customers would have to contribute an additional 13 tons of milk jugs and newspapers and cereal boxes and grass clippings to bring your 9% percentage up to 15%. And, you know, I mean, who would be happier than me and every other garbage hauler if their customers started producing that? But how are we supposed to cause that to happen? Or if our customers don't have that, if our customers just don't have that much recycling, you know, if our customer base, you know, you don't get the newspaper. And there's another point. As our percentages are supposed to go up, but newspaper magazine sales are down. Our band parents organization in Brandon did not do magazine sales this year because it's so hard to sell magazines. You can't use it as a fundraiser anymore. The amount of paper is going down, so therefore the amount of paper that can be recycled is going down. But anyway, that's, you know, if you're going to raise your percentage from 9 to 15, 13 tons in a month, each month, that's just an awful lot to ask. I can't say that I know what the answer is, but it's not putting a garbage hauler out of business. And let me say, in defense of the staff, landfill staff and sustainability coordinator's office, Dave and Amy and their staff, they have assured us, and the Solid Waste Planning Board as well, that haulers who are diligent and they're working hard at building their percentages they are going to have a soft approach to them and be understanding and you know, assure them, you know, that, you know, they're people just like us, and they're not trying to bury somebody. However, that's not that good sentiment is not in the ordinance, and the ordinance, I mean, maybe they could be even prevented from acting in good, you know, in good gestures or making good gestures towards a garbage hauler that they didn't want to use the most severe punishment on. On the other hand, when they can recognize or identify somebody who is discouraging their customers from recycling, or not making it possible, or by not making it possible for them to recycle, or flat out telling them, I'm not messing with it, you just will put it all in the garbage because that's where I'm going to throw it. You know, that needs a book thrown at it.
Mr. Wilford, thank you very much.
That is.
Great job. Thank you, Mr. Wilford. Folks, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council on this particular topic? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and
Good
City
evening.
Council. My name is Lori Cressman. I'm with Advanced Recycling Systems, and they've pretty much covered everything. I just have one comment, and it's on 1826, where leave the trash if the recycling is visible, and the haulers must leave a note. And I think this needs to go hand in hand. I firmly believe this note, and the reason why I'm up here, I'm not a hauler, but you know, the staff here have asked the recyclers to step up and see if there's anything we can do to help the haulers. And so I really feel that if they are being requested to leave a note because there is recycling in their trash, that note needs to be from the city. You know, that it's furnished from the city. It has the city logo on it, so that customer knows you know, that it's coming from the city, and that they are not going to switch to another hauler because they feel this hauler is making them do something that they don't want to do. And then my last comment is on 1830, the rate, the $1 incentive. And I guess I have to say that I feel the hauler has an incentive right now to recycle, and they can choose to I guess pay the $35 at the landfill if they are not recycling, or bring it to my recycling center and get paid for it. Throughout the year of 11, and of course the recycling rates go up and down pricing, but my average in 2011 has been on average about $125 a ton that I pay for the product. So I feel that that is an incentive right there. And you know, for the smaller haulers that don't have the large customers, the large accounts, and the commercials that have the large amounts of recycling that they can claim on their reports, this puts them at an economic disadvantage. So those are my comments. Thank you for your time this evening.
Ms. Cressman, thank you. Council, are there any? Sir?
Jake Anderson, Blending Recycling. I guess I'll be the speaker for the silent majority. I would just say that these are very modest proposals, and it really starts to get us a little bit more in line with communities that are out there of like sizes to the city of Sioux Falls. And we've kind of heard some similar skies falling commentary with some of these initiatives that have been brought up in the past. I've been in Sioux Falls for over 12 years now, and we've never seen a license get revoked. So the city has bent over backwards over the years to try to be accommodating, to try to be accommodating to haulers, as well as trying to raise the standards. And at the end of the day, that's really what this is trying to raise our standards. And I would urge of these measures. Thanks.
City Council, any questions, motions? Councilor Karski.
I guess I have a couple. Mr. Capel, if you don't mind, Bob. And we kind of went over this at land use the other night. The disposal fee for trailers, like a mobile home versus a regular construction, is there a logic why we're charging a different rate for disposal for a mobile home versus raising another residential building?
I will refer that question to our superintendent. Establishes those fees in the ordinance.
Sure, and the main reason for that is Dave McElroy, landfill superintendent.
Thanks, Dave.
The main reason for that is trailer houses are big, bulky materials. No matter what we do to compact them and get them down, they still take up a lot of space. So, yes, if a person wants to demolish a trailer house and haul it out in a truck, they'll get a lot better rate than if they bring a whole trailer house out. Okay. And I think the biggest cost to those trailer homeowners are the fact to get that thing roadworthy to bring it out to the landfill.
Okay, so if it's on wheels, we're going to charge more, is what you're telling me.
Yes, trailer, we charge by the cubic foot.
Councilor Carson, please continue.
And then 1859, under the pay-as-you-throw, Section 1, I mean, I understand the logic for providing two levels of service, but why are we telling them what they have to charge?
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Councilor Karski. And I want to clarify that. We are not telling any hauler what they need to charge. What we are doing is establishing a minimum criteria between the price between their lower level service and their higher level service. In essence, a hauler could basically reduce the costs of their lower container to meet that standard. So it is no reason that a hauler has to increase any rates. They could reduce them if they chose to. And to follow up a little further question on a comment that was made by a hauler, and firstly I want to let the council know I'm a fairly new manager in this area, and I've met these business owners that run these haulers, and I want to let you know that I've met several of the most honest and respectful people that I've met in my life in the last year. So I do respect them, I appreciate their comments, and we do have concerns for their livelihood and their business, but these are necessary orders to achieve that. To challenge the individuals that have fear that it's going to raise their rates and it's going to cost their customers more and it's going to take customers away from them, I believe the contrary. Currently, right now, the way it is established, if we only said you provide two levels of service and we did not put a 1.25 criteria between the two levels of service, what in essence can happen there is a hauler that has a greater return on investment, a greater profit margin because maybe they're larger or more efficient, they could eat those costs. And they could basically charge the same or very little difference. Where maybe a hauler who doesn't have the profit margin as a more efficient hauler, they would be at the disadvantage that time because they may need to charge more because they're picking up a larger container. So I believe, in the contrary, that this standard only sets a minimum criteria, does not tell a hauler what they have to charge. They can lower rates on the lower containers or raise rates on the higher containers. It is totally their choice. It is a minimum criteria. And I think it's going to be a very good thing for most haulers in this community. Thank you for the question.
Last one, if I may. And Bob, I know your Solid Waste Planning Board put in a lot of time and I've got a great group of people there, too. I thank you for the work they did. On 1862, I have a concern on 3 and 4. Basically, we're taking this type of ordinance out of the control of the council, and we're giving your department the ability to change the recycling percentage every year and raise it without going through any sort of hearing process, I guess. Is that the way that looks?
Yes, you are correct. Basically, the council 6 years ago established the recycling goal. The recycling goal, and I want to compliment the council at that time. I was in support of that concept of the goal because, in essence, city staff, city council is not setting that goal. It is our community that is setting that goal. What we do is we take a look at the past year recycling rates and we establish the new goal based on the average of those recycling rates for the next year. So the council is basically saying how we will calculate the goal, but the goal and the standard is ultimately set by our community. If the markets are good for recycling and the customers in Sioux Falls and this region support recycling, the recycling rates are going to go up, which will drive our recycling go up. If the recycling markets are low or poor at any time in our countries, and the customers are not supportive as high as recycling rates, the recycling goal and standard will reduce. I believe it's a very unique, I think it's very positive, and I think it's really a fantastic goal and standard because we are not throwing an arbitrary number out there that we'd like to see everybody achieve. This is something our community is establishing for us. Thank you for the question.
Councilor Karski, please continue.
Yeah, with what you just said then, if we're going to change our goal every year to be the average, aren't we in effect going to be losing half of our haulers because half of them are always going to be below goal?
That is a great question. We still get those questions from our haulers. That is one of the proposed changes in our ordinances. If you take a look at 1875, please correct me, staff, under the enforcement strategy, 1862, we are no longer going to have a recycling goal, which is the average of the haulers. We will now have an enforceable standard, which is 80% of that. And as we've talked about, and we've given you that chart in the past, it is not that they have to meet the average, they just have to meet 80% of that average. And when we established that average, we really I personally looked very hard at that. And I think it's important to recognize this because there's a lot of fear out there that, boy, if I don't make that standard 1 year, I'm in trouble, I'm going to lose my license. When we established that standard, if you take a look at the past 3 years of the recycling rates based upon the recycling goals, there would have been less than 10% of the haulers that would have potentially been revoked for a license this coming March if our current standards are adopted. So it's not a large number right now, and I believe it's even going to be lower because I do believe what the haulers have stated. These new standards are going to challenge the haulers to basically increase their recycling, which is going to make it easier for them to meet that standard and that recycling goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Inman.
Bob, what do you say to the response that you got that, I can only haul what people are putting out? I leave a note, and I'm not picking up anymore now, whether it's in a different area of town that might be a little bit more affluent than others. There would seem that there would be some challenges with that. What is your response to that?
My response to that, Councilor Entman, is we are, as a staff, very concerned with that also. We do have standards in place, code in place, that every citizen in our region must recycle. They must separate the recyclable materials. They must place it in a different container. Now, we know we will never achieve 100% recycling. It's an impossibility. We know that is not out there. I have already challenged my team this year to look for opportunities and ideas to basically better educate the public to assist the haulers to getting those customers and those citizens that aren't willing to increase their recycling rates. And I will attest to you and assure you that will be one of our primary goals in the next 2-3 years if these ordinances are established, to basically ensure that their customer base is not
the sole problem that's creating their problem.
Just lost my train of thought here. What about the response to some haulers? I understand are big into the recycling, and I understand that. And there are those smaller haulers that maybe they chose not to do it, possibly, and that's a decision that they have to make. And I understand that too. But have you, for example, somebody brought up out here a letter that goes up from the city versus the haulers? I mean, I hate to say that we're the big bad guy, but we play the big bad role all the time when it comes to establishing rates. And quite honestly, the haulers are not the police officers here. It should not be their responsibility to have to be responsible for the actions of the people that they're hauling for. So what about the city sending out a note or a letter to that effect?
Those are great comments and great questions and comments from our haulers. You can ask my staff. We have already discussed that matter, and we are basically in the process of developing a template that the haulers can use if they choose to, because obviously it is their business. We don't want to intervene on their business unless we need to, but we will develop a template, a letter, a note that they can basically lead to the customer if they want to put that burden upon the city. If they choose to do it themselves, we will allow them to do it in their own manner.
Yes, Jim. One thing I might ask, this process that you've had in trying to help the haulers as well as educate the people, I know it's been going on for a while, and it seems like you're taking a very active part in the leadership role on this. Have you looked at possibly, I know a couple of the haulers that spoke mentioned how they're at the 12 or the 13 percentile range. They feel comfortable with being able to move the bar up 1 point, and they're very happy that they've been able to do that. Have you thought about, instead of looking at a penalizing effect, of looking at helping them to develop action plans? Some people with better resources probably have that ability to do that, like a business plan kind of thing. What about developing an action plan where you know that they've got the containers out there, they're doing everything to contact their customers, you've helped them look at their rates, comparisons, whatever you need to do. Have you thought about developing an action plan and implementing that before we start slapping hands a little bit more?
Another great question. Just from our perspective, what has taken place so far this year, if this standard or ordinances are adopted, basically, if they do not meet the standard, they are required to develop a corrective action plan. But we also do recognize that there are some haulers that don't have the profit margins, don't have the resources as some of the haulers. We are currently looking at, and I've shared this with the council in past presentations, that we will develop a basic template for a corrective action plan. We will take a look at the successes, the good ideas that are out there to improve recycling from other haulers, and we'll look at industrial standards and develop a template for a corrective action plan that if these haulers need it, we will provide it to them free of charge from the city to assist them. Ultimately, that is our goal, to provide that assistance to hauler. We have, matter of fact, we have reached out to our primary solid waste consultant and asked for a retainage fee on what it would cost to basically develop a more formal corrective action template that could assist these haulers. So we are moving in that direction, and I believe we will resolve that matter. Thank you. Councilor Mudd.
Thank you so much for the presentations, Bob, because you've been at this for a while. First of all, my big thing is, and it's why you're all here, is that the bottom line is the life of the landfill.
That's correct.
You know, as a city council, it's our responsibility to maintain and take care of those things that we own. And we can talk about global politics, and we can talk about save the earth, blah, blah, blah. On a local level, that's us. It's the city council setting these policies, and I appreciate staff working as hard as you have to bring this forward for us. So the main question then is really, and what these haulers are saying to us, is that people are going to throw away whatever they want to throw away. So my question to you, Bob, is how do we teach people that the long-term effect of them throwing away just any old thing and not thinking about recycling, how do we teach them about that long-term effect?
Well, obviously, I'm going to speak to, I've got a tremendous staff. Amy Ledonsky is our sustainability coordinator. Joe Heffron is a new sustainability technician. And these individuals are passionate about educating the public. One positive thing coming forward to us that will assist us is if we basically
build our new environmental offices, we hopefully will have an education center to help educate the youth of our community, because ultimately we all know if you educate the youth, they will transfer that to their families and the rest of the citizens. It is a challenge, and we'll continue to doing that. I think you've all heard our ads trying to educate the public, but obviously we need to do more than that. And I don't think there's a silver bullet how to educate the public and make them understand the importance, but there are things that we need to share with that. And I think this dialogue is important, because you had a great point, the life of the landfill. I have a study in here that just came out, a survey nationally about the NIMBY, not in my backyard. It is becoming a greater and greater issue of finding places to put future landfills. Of a survey that was done, the greatest land use that people are against of in our country is the location of a landfill. So you are right on target. What your actions you take today in the councils in the past will extend the life of that landfill. And a generation from now, 2 generations from now, if we continue moving the direction we are, you are going to save a tremendous headache for future councils and future city staff of trying to find a landfill prior to the life of this landfill being expired. So I appreciate your questions and support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Jansen.
Maybe wake up the crowd here a little bit.
Okay.
You know, just had a chance to talk to some haulers and talk to even a recycler here in town. And Bob, have you ever, and did the Solid Waste Board ever think about the idea that if it's a little bit like the water delivery system in our city, we certainly want to conserve water, just like we want to conserve our landfill. And we penalize those individuals who use way too much water during times of the day when they shouldn't be, i.e. water in their yard. But we control the whole system. We control it from the production all the way through the delivery and to the sell to the homeowner. Have you, and as your board, considered the idea of running the garbage system in our city completely from start to finish? Was that ever a discussion? And have you considered what the other cities approaching our size and or somewhat bigger are doing with their garbage hauling systems?
I appreciate the question. If I can properly answer this, is everything that the Solid Waste Planning Board and myself as a manager, and one thing I've learned over my years of experience is that it is not my role to basically press my and my ideas upon the public. That is your responsibility as a council. It is obviously, we are a very unique system. Obviously, everything that we've done here, that I've worked hard, our team's worked hard on, is to accept the system we've got and make it work the best that it can. Are there systems that control the whole system? Absolutely. City of Yankton handles, basically does the collection. I believe the City of Des Moines, if my staff correct me, they do the collection also. So yes, the City of Sioux Falls has that option. There are many, many other options. You could look at franchising the collection system in the community. You could look at districting the collection system in the city. There's a multitude of ideas out there that are available to the council. And I do believe that when we are completed with our sustainability master plan, those concepts and ideas will be presented in that sustainability master plan. Obviously, probably there are more efficient, more reliable collection systems than we've got in our community. But right now, that's the system we have. That's the system I respect. These are the owners of those businesses that I respect, that I will work my best to help them maintain their businesses, but also ensure we have a fair playing field and that those haulers that choose not to recycle and choose not to invest the resources necessary to meet those recycling rates, I will, if given authority by the City Council, take enforcement action as necessary to correct that matter.
Just to follow up, had you ever I guess I'll look forward to seeing those options and that might be available to the council. Would one of them be the option of having the city maybe responsible for picking up all the recycling materials so the haulers don't have to deal with it and therefore we protect our landfill?
That is an option, and it's a great and could be available here in the city.
Okay.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I want to go back to Section 18-62, Recycling Golden Standard, where we talk about, now the recycling goal of 15% was set by the City Council, correct?
That is correct. How we calculate the recycling goal is correct.
Okay. I guess my thoughts on this, instead of having it being basically administrative rule, number 3 on that, the city shall calculate recycling for the subsequent year by using data from the previous year. Could that not be presented to the council each year so that we would have an update on our recycling, and then that way the council would still be involved in that process?
Sure, absolutely. Matter of fact, I think that's a great suggestion, Councilor Anderson. We would be happy to approach the council and informational, and give you the information that we have from the past recycling rates and tell you what the new recycling goal will be and new standard will be in our community. That is something we would hopefully be able to share with you. Currently, we share that information with the administration and the mayor, and we'd be glad to share that with the council. And if that time, if the council felt uncomfortable with that recycling goal and standard, of course you would have an opportunity to address that if you felt it was necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about a suggestion? You mentioned yourself that you're not really looking at implementing in 2011, probably 2012, right? Because of the
That's correct,
concerns people
because the
have.
standard would not be adopted if the council approved till later this month, and we just want to be conservative. and
What
basically
if the concerns that the haulers have had that they've expressed out here, and your willingness to take and work, and develop action plans, look at developing a letter, things like that that really aren't in place yet. Is it possible that if we could adopt something like this, you might say, for those haulers that are out there that, you know, are at that bottom end of your chart, how about let's work at developing an action plan for you. We're going to implement it, see what happens for a year, give us a year or so to go, and then put off doing any penalizing of these haulers until like 2013. So as you got a year of the action plan out there, we're seeing if we're able to raise this stuff up a little bit, the increased awareness of the community, and we're not penalizing the haulers that are trying to make a living. But yet we are putting them on notice that this is the program and the policies that we have, and we've got another year to make this thing work, and let's try to get it done. And maybe if it doesn't work and it goes in the toilet, maybe we just got to sit down and figure out something else here then. But before we implement the penalty phase of this, you know, I might suggest that that's one thing that we look at doing, that we go that extra step up front to begin with.
Thank you for the comment, and I would like to clarify that that's almost exactly what's going to take place. Based upon guidance of the City Attorney's Office, we will not propose any penalties on a hauler until March 31st of 2013. So we are a year and a half away before a hauler would be charged the $1 potential surcharge and be required to do a corrective action plan. And we will, as your suggestion, work diligent with these haulers that are below the standard level to help bring them up. If they are willing to partner with us, we will partner with them.
Councilor Urbanbach.
I'd like to move approval.
Thank you.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Urbanbach's made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Karski. City Council, are there any comments, questions? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That's passed 7-0. Item 19.
Then, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I might, could we take a 5-minute recess?
Sure. Folks, it is now 9:12 in the evening on Monday, and we will reconvene at 9:17 in the evening on Monday. of Tuesday, October 11th at 7 p.m. for item 19.
So moved.
Counselor Jameson's made that motion, second by
Second,
Counselor Erpenbach. If there's no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Intiman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 20.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by amending certain animal control and licensing ordinances of the city.
Very good. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Alicia Calora, Assistant Director for the Health Department, and I'm here to speak with you regarding a rabies resolution that was recently passed by the Board of Health and how that could impact some licensing fee structure for the animal control ordinance should it be approved. I'd like to just make mention that on 9/26, Jill Franken did come to Council Informational and do a full presentation on this topic. To go back a little bit, the reason why we set out to take a look at this in 2011 is because we do get periodic concerns from citizens and our Board of Health members that perhaps our previous rabies resolution could be causing that animals are over-vaccinated. So we really started to take a look at this in January, actually. Throughout the year, the board has used several resources to come to their decision. One of them was the CDC's Compendium for Rabies Control. Another is the American Animal Hospital Association Guidelines, as well as the American Association of Feline Practitioners. All of these guidelines recommend that rabies vaccinations be done in accordance with manufacturers' guidelines, and this is the basis for our resolution. We also utilized expert opinion. The Board of Health always has one veterinarian member, and our previous two, Dr. Kristen Bloink and Dr. Sharon Wagner, were both involved in the review and recommendation of this resolution. We also had the state veterinarian, Dr. Dustin Odekoven, review our resolution, which he offered his support, and also state public health veterinarian, Dr. Russ Daly, who was before you last week, along with Jill, in recommending the resolution that the Board of Health passed. We also looked at other communities. I think we reviewed 5 or 6 with you last week, but communities such as Rapid City, Omaha, and Minneapolis all have similar resolutions or city ordinance recommending the vaccine intervals. With all this information that was gathered, the Board of Health did make their decision and pass a new ordinance which says that cats or dogs can have a 1-year rabies vaccine or a multi-year vaccine. If the animal is vaccinated with an annual, then they will have their booster each year. If it's a multi-year, then the resolution recommends that the rabies booster be done every 3 years in accordance with manufacturers' guidelines. So this change sets out changes in other areas as well, because ideally the rabies resolution should fall in line with the licensing done through animal control for cats and dogs. I would refer you to Section 760 and 762 of the Animal Control Ordinance for the changes that we are proposing. So for instance, cats who previously were only offered a 1-year license now would be offered a 1- or a 3-year license, depending on the expiration of the vaccine that was used on that animal. Same for dogs. Previously, if a dog was vaccinated with a multi-year vaccine, then only a 2-year license was provided, and this would be changed to a 1- or 3-year. 762 outlines the fees that would coordinate with these changes. The fees will not increase or decrease because of the recommended changes. They only fall in line with the year that the vaccine and the license correspond. So for instance, a neutered male dog currently would have a 2-year license at $10. The proposed change would be a 1-year license at $5 or a 3-year license at $15. There are higher fees for unneutered or unspayed animals, but they still do not increase because of the change, only because of the amount of years allowed for an extended license. There are several reasons to have these two items coordinate. One is that the police department does use this as a tool. If there is an incident with an animal or a bite, the police department can always look towards that license and know that that animal has been vaccinated for rabies, and that really speeds up the investigation time having to evaluate if a person has been exposed to rabies. Also, we hope that having these two items coincide would mean increased compliance for the public as a convenience to them. And finally, this is the prevailing standard in other communities to have these two things in sync, and the CDC does recommend that you have these two items in sync as one of the measures that a community would use to help control rabies. So as part of this, we do know that there will be some public education needed, and so the health department is continuing to commit itself to partnering with the police department. We will be doing basic public education as far as news releases and answering any questions that the public could have about what this change would mean to them at their veterinary office. I also know that the police department will be sending a letter to all the vet offices should this be adopted, and doing one-on-one education with all the vets on how this could impact the vaccine and licensing process. Along with these recommendations that health has brought forward, animal control looked at the animal control ordinance in total, and they also have some recommendations for you. And so I would introduce Lieutenant Galen Schmidt at this time to go over those as well.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I think you've reviewed some of these already, and I'm just going to highlight just a couple of them. Some of them were done just to clarify and get in compliance with some of the licensing fees, and that was in 23-26, which licenses that are issued by the police department. We did not have our license fees in there, and we would like to correct that. And along in 7-45, the $8 boarding fee as set by the contract with the Humane Society should be added to that ordinance. The other two that we'd like to talk about briefly is 7-52 deals with injured animals. If we pick up an animal that is not licensed, we don't know who the owner is, and it's in distress, right now the wording is just injured. We'd like to add the terminology suffering or otherwise diseased, which gives the animal control officer discretion, and typically they go under the advisement of an emergency room veterinarian where we bring the animal if it's in dire need. The other one is 7-24, and we worked with the city attorney's office on that one. And the way it works right now, if it's a bite of an animal to a person and it's off property, the wording in the ordinance dictates that we bring the animal to the Humane Society for a 10-day hold, whether the animal is current on its vaccination or not. We'd like to give the animal control officer some discretion on that. We've had a couple instances where an animal would bite at a groomer or a veterinarian, and if it's a vaccinated animal, we have no choice at this point other than to lodge the animal at the Humane Society. But if the owner of the animal is in compliance with vaccination, it just gives them the ability to do the 10-day hold at their home if the animal control officer feels that they have the right facilities and kennels to do that, which would save them about $110.
Very good, thank you. And folks, this is a first reading, so there's not an opportunity for the public to respond. There will be a second reading potentially. Council, any questions or comments for these folks? Would anybody like to set a date of hearing and second reading for the meeting of Tuesday, October 11th at 7 p.m. for item 20?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Entman.
Councilor Anderson Jr. made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entman. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-21.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by amending Article 8, Main Street Business Improvement District of Chapter 39 by clarifying exemptions subject to initial assessment.
Good evening, Brent O'Neill, representing Community Development, here to talk about the Main Street Business Improvement District and a few changes we're recommending to the ordinance. Real briefly, just for perspective, the Main Street Business Improvement District is one of two bid districts in Sioux Falls corresponding to our official downtown boundary and downtown area. It allows a special tax to be collected within that district for the betterment of the downtown area. We have been evaluating the bid for some time, and I anticipate we might be coming forward in future months with other changes as they come up. As you're aware, there is pending litigation on this item, or on this topic, and has slowed our review a little bit. However, one of the advantages of having that counsel, outside counsel involved, is having extra sets of legal eyes on this document, and they have identified a couple of things within here they're recommending be changed. You will note a lot of that is grammatical and language-based in nature, but there are a couple sections, sections 39, 147, and 148, generally just a rearranging and clarifying of that language. Section 39, 147, item 3 is new and is really meant to clarify an ambiguity in state statute that there is some uncertainty about. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Anderson, Jr.?
I guess I have a question for the city attorney.
Please.
If right now, if we're in legal lawsuit or something like this on something exactly the same, do we want to move into expanding these bid districts at this time?
Please.
Councilor Anderson, actually what this is doing, it's part of an effort following the Hubbard versus the City of Pierre case from approximately June 30th of 2010. It's caused municipalities across the state to analyze and assess and review what they're doing with their special assessments, and certainly the business improvement districts are part of that. There is pending litigation. However, I don't think that it should in any way stall our efforts that were already ongoing regarding how we look at this thing, and we want to comply with the law, and frankly, the sooner the better. These changes would exempt approximately 5 properties that are residential in nature. The Ronning properties, which is one of the lawsuits pending, would be part of that, but not all of the properties affected. Admittedly, the Ronning lawsuit is a contributing factor to the change. However, they're not the sole determining factor. There actually was the process of analyzing the whole situation was in place before that lawsuit.
Councilor Anderson, Jr., follow-up?
On this subject here, I don't have any council support, but I'd like to see this looked at a committee level at least before we move forward on this, and that will be my motion, is to move this to a committee to take a look at it.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second? Okay, Councilor Urbanbach has seconded that motion by Councilor Anderson, Jr. to defer this item to committee. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Urbanbach?
Councilor Anderson, what committee would you think?
Well, I would think either public services or land use would be appropriate committee to take a look at this.
Then would you talk more about why you want it to go to committee?
Well, I think the pending litigation is one thing, but I think we need to take a look at these bid districts and make sure that they are set up properly and with the approval of the participants that are going to be involved in these bid districts. As we saw in the last one, businesses aren't being asked to be part of this, they're just thrown into this. And I want to see these type of bid districts become more of a cooperative program between government and those businesses. And that's, I guess I'm sort of looking to see if there's ways to reword this, or making sure that when community development brings this back to us, that it's already written properly.
Brent, any comments? City Attorney Leifley, Director Smith, anything to help?
If I could, Councilor Anderson, maybe a small request I would make. If you would be kind enough to set the data hearing for next week, or frankly the week after, and just allow us to sit down with you and visit about this. The change tonight may be part and parcel to the pending litigation and a current motion to dismiss. And then there would be part of a broader review going forward.
Would October 24th, is that
I think it would be the 17th.
no council meeting on the
17th would be the third Monday.
I can agree with that.
And then if there's a need to defer, again, at that point, be happy to address it at that time, but.
Councilor Anderson Jr., are you withdrawing your
No, I think we'll
first
let,
motion? And
I
you wanna
think we'll
vote on
let
that?
the council vote on it, and
right.
then we can go from there.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment that Councilor Anderson Jr. has made, which is seconded by Councilor Bach? If we could have a roll call vote, please. It was a motion to move this to committee. So can we vote on that motion?
Council members Erpenbach,
No.
Jameson,
No.
Karski,
No.
Aguilar,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
No.
Intiman.
No.
That has failed 1-6. Any further discussion? Councilor Erpenbach?
I'm going to move approval
Okay.
as written.
As written for October 11th? So Councilor Erpenbach is making a motion, date of hearing and second reading for the meeting of Tuesday, October 11th at 7 p.m. for this item. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
There is a second by Councilor Jameson. Is there further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Intiman.
Yes.
That has passed 6-1. Item 22.
Deferred action from the meeting of September 6, 2011 and September 19, 2011, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Williams Addition. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This item is in conjunction with item 14 that the City Council took action on previously tonight. The applicant is Dunham Companies. This is the property south of 41st Street and east of Grange Avenue. It's approximately 26 acres in size. And essentially what we're doing is revising the street layout based on the more recent development plan. The previous street pattern showed a proposed series of public right-of-ways that would connect commercial, residential, and industrial development. The more up-to-date request that's being considered tonight would actually show a series or a system of private drives and easements for access to the various land uses. And those private drives would be the responsibility of the developer to construct and to maintain. I'll show one more. And this is recommended not only by the Planning Commission, but also by the various city staff that have gone through the review process. So that's the old version. And that's the new version that shows the private drives. That would be the responsibility of the developer.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Council, do you have any questions, comments, or motions?
Move approval, Aguilar.
Second Anderson.
Councilor Aguilar has made a motion to approve item number 22, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Any further discussion? Vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Intiman.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item number 23.
Deferred action from the meeting of September 19, 2011, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the revised preliminary plan of Timber Oaks Estate Addition. The Planning Commission recommends denial.
This involves property currently owned by Preston Metler, the developer of Timber Oak Estates Addition. This is located on Southwestern Avenue, at the very south end of the city limits, south of 85th Street. This development is directly north of the new proposed Harrisburg Elementary School site, which was recently approved for annexation by the City Council. Mr. Metler's original development plan showed some of his streets extending into the property that's now proposed for the elementary school. And his concern is the traffic impacts that may generate with the school construction. So he submitted a revised plan that showed the street connectivity would be limited with cul-de-sacs. That was recommended for denial by the planning staff and the planning commission. And since that time, Mr. Metler has been working on some other options that would provide street connectivity to the school site, but yet provide his development with some limited traffic access. Just today, we discussed this with Mr. Metler. He's still working through some engineering options, and the request tonight on his behalf is to defer this request to the January 17th, 2012 City Council meeting. And the reason for that length of a deferral is for us to work with his consulting engineer and city staff on these other options that we think we could bring forward for consideration. So the request is to defer this to January 17th of 2012.
Councilor Aguilar.
So this wouldn't have to go back if it's a completely changed plan to the planning commission?
No. The city council would have the authority to vote on that modification.
Thank you.
In the audience who want to speak to this? Very good. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
If we decided not to defer this and just denied this, then he would have to go back through planning? Is that he would have to start from scratch?
Yes. Yep. He's been very cooperative, and again, we're trying to work not only with him, but also with the school, with the Harrisburg School District.
Council, would anybody like to make a motion?
Move to defer as recommended.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Edmund Jr. has made a motion to defer item 23 until January 17, 2012. It was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Entman.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item number 26.
A resolution approving the appointment of Sue Roust as interim city clerk effective upon passage and publication.
Councilor Erpenbach.
Mr. Mayor, Sue Roust has served as Minnehaha County Auditor for 20 years, and we're delighted that she's interested in helping us out for the next couple of months. The Auditor's Office in Minnehaha County is responsible for elections, voter registration, accounting, and keeping minutes of county commission meetings. Sue has worked with our city clerk's office on every city election from 1994 through 2010, so she's very familiar with both the clerk's staff and city election procedures, and I urge your approval on this resolution.
Are you making a motion for that approval?
Yes,
Councilor
I would.
Erpenbach?
I would do that, yes. Thank you.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Erpenbach has made a motion to approve the appointment of Sue Roust as interim city clerk effective upon passage and publication. It was seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Is there any further discussion, or would you want to introduce Ms. Roust?
Yes, Mrs. Roust is here. If she could come forward, that would be awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Sue, I know most of the people of Sioux Falls and maybe even the state know you, but would you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Sue Roust, private citizen at this point. I'm honored to have the opportunity to work with the city and help out with this upcoming election. I think it's an exciting time for the city. This is a very important election you have coming up. It's obviously one that's generating a lot of interest. At the end of the day today, there had already been 750 absentee ballots taken out. That's just going to be record-breaking, way more than you've ever dealt with before in that area. And so, to me, it looks like there's going to be a lot of citizen interest. I have already met with the staff of the city clerk's office last week, and I have to tell you, they're doing an exceptional job of preparing for the election. They're really on track. We made a few minor adjustments, but they're doing a terrific job, and I think things are I feel very comfortable with the status of election planning.
Thank you very much. So, well, there has been a motion made. Is there any further discussion?
Second, Karski.
Well, actually, it has been seconded, but let's vote. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 27.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members of certain citizen boards.
Jamie, would you mind reading those to the people of Sioux Falls, or for the people of Sioux Falls, please?
Kathy Knobloch, Human Relations Commission. Ruth
Christopolsky.
There we go. Airport Authority Board. Julie Schnably, Airport Authority Board.
Very good. Council, would anybody like to
Move
make
to
a-
approve Intamin.
Thank you, Councilor.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Anderson has seconded that motion that was made by Councilor Entenmann. Is there any discussion? Councilor Jameson.
I have a comment that I'd like to make. The city doesn't contribute any funds to the airport, and the idea that the mayor has the privilege to appoint these board members is truly just a privilege. And I wish that the mayor and future mayors would take those considerations by those individuals like the Airport Authority Board more seriously. I feel that what the Airport Authority has been doing over the last several decades has been a great job. And currently in their motions and the actions that they're doing today, they're doing tremendous work. And I noted that you wanted to take it in a different direction, and I just can't see what direction that would be, other than the quality direction that they've been going in. So I know it's your privilege to make this appointment, and the people that you've probably selected are great people and will serve well. But I wish that you would respect the opinions of the Airport Authority, because I think they're well-founded.
Councilor Jameson, thank you. Just so the people of Sioux Falls know, I do take these very, very seriously, and I do look at all of the recommendations and do the best I can, and the council has the opportunity to approve or deny these recommendations. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
No.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
And that is passed 6-1. Item 28, please.
Report of the September 26, 2011 Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units.
Very good. Council, is there any further discussion or comments about tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I
Councilor
move
Aguilar.
adjournment.
Thank you, Councilor Aguilar.
Second, Erpenbach.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to adjourn and seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. City of Sioux Falls, thank you very much.